there will be no real non-controlled currency in the world.
We're coming for you, banks.
Increasing the block size to 32 megabytes right now. What would be the top 5 arguments that would get hurled against me?
Oh, that's a good one.
There are a few that the big blockers got right.
Ching, like all these coins splash into the wallets of all the winners. I love that.
There's a new threat out there. It's crypto.
Hello and welcome back to the Bitcoin Cash podcast. Following Bitcoin Cash on its rise to global reserve currency, this is episode number 117, Gen Z and political event horizon featuring Jager. Today is Sunday, the 2nd of June, 2024. I'm your host, Jeremy. Jet is doing the producing, same as always. And our guest today is a Twitch streamer and content creator with a background in cryptocurrency. Welcome to the show, Jager. How'd you get into Bitcoin?
So my adventure with crypto started back in 2020. A buddy of mine, a senior in high school, he just happened to be talking about Bitcoin while we were in lunch, and I just joined the conversation. He showed me a little bit of how to buy it and everything. Got my first job at McDonald's. I just threw every paycheck into it. And then after I graduated high school, completely forgot about it, checked back on it, and it just skyrocketed. And then I just started doing more research on wallets and better ways to protect what I made that I didn't know I had.
Yeah. So then how'd you end up on this show? Tell me the story there.
So with Bitcoin Cash, I just happened to be scrolling through my Twitter feed, and you guys were having a public talk or public voice. I forget what the hell X calls it.
Twitter space.
Yeah, Twitter space. And I decided to just hop in, and a lot of the topics you guys are talking about how the market works and the differences in Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash just really intrigued me. And the fact I've never heard of Bitcoin Cash until that day, it was just something I was incredibly interested in. I put in a thing to join the conversation, and by just sheer luck, especially since there was a bot that was just there moments before, I wasn't expecting you guys to let me in, and you guys let me in, introduced me to Bitcoin Cash, and I've just gone down the rabbit hole these last couple of months since.
Yeah, I've been here, and you told me that you were watching with your brother. You were watching 2 to 3 episodes of the podcast a day, and you've watched all, like, the entire back catalog. Is that right?
Yeah, so my little brother, he's also getting into crypto, and after the conversation with you guys and joining the Telegram, I told him, hey, this is something, if you're really interested, let's watch some of these episodes. And me and him, we used to always just play video games, so instead of playing video games, we just loaded up the podcast, grabbed our notebooks, started writing things down that we didn't understand. At the end of each episode, go back, look it up. By the time the day was done, we were 2 to 3 episodes done. We just keep doing that every day. And now we're at episode 105.
Holy crap. Wow. You must be the most dedicated listener of the show with bringing out the notepad and like studying. You must be a good student,
man. I can't wait to see his reaction. I haven't told him that on my guest show on here, so I can't wait to see his reaction when we listen to this episode.
All right, keep it under wraps, and then it'll just come up and be like, hey, what up? It's me.
He's going to see, because he knows I content create, so he's going to see Jager, and he's going to be like, wait a minute, hold up, when did you do this?
Yeah, exactly. Nice surprise in the pipeline. So tell me a bit more about that content creation part of it. How did you get into that, and what's the story there?
So back during the peak of Apex Legends, I was really good at it. I played the ranked mode, and I was in the highest rank was Apex Predators. And at the time, I was part of a small amateur esports team called NextX. And with that, I decided, let me make content with this. And I took off. I was under a whole different name, Mixed Breed Gaming. It was fun. I played in a whole bunch of tournaments, and unfortunately, I came to a hard stop because my mother would not let me go to international tournaments.
Damn. Damn, that sucks. It sounds like, yeah, if you were on the up and up and then everything just came to a bit of a screeching halt there. Damn, that's rough, man.
Came to a screeching halt, and then I took about a 3 to 4 year hiatus from content creating. And then the streaming platform Kick came out, and I had a buddy on TikTok. His name's Official Envy. Amazing guy. He plays Destiny 2, and I watched him go from TikTok to Kick, and over the last 6 months to the last year of just talking, he was like, hey, you should get back into content creating. And I was doing Call of Duty and DayZ, and I had him supporting me, and I've just built up this nice little community of a whole bunch of people that just enjoyed seeing what I do.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. I think for me, it's a bit of a window into a different world, right? Because I've also grown up a lot on the online streams and like Twitch and all that, but it was well before like TikTok and even YouTube being as big as it is now and all these kind of things, right? I was big on the gaming, back when it was StarCraft 2 and then League of Legends. That's now kind of died, right? Everybody's just like moved on.
Everyone's moved on to like the first person shooters, the really heavy action pack. No one likes the slow paced games too much anymore, which really sucks too.
Slow paced, really.
It's sad though. Like the newer generation of gamers are so picky on what games are now. It's hard for people to make actual decent games that have a long playthrough.
Yeah, I guess so. But I mean, that comes about as being in a world where we've got so much choice, right? It's inevitable that people's standards are going to just keep going up to match the quality of what's being created, right?
Yeah, you're right about that one. But I got sidetracked there. My bad.
It's super cool. It's super interesting to hear because I just think like when we do the listener stats to my show, right? It's majority is, age bracket is from like 25 to like 40 or maybe 45 is the core demographic of this show. But obviously that's because, they've had longer to get into finance and all that sort of stuff. But it's really important for the BCH community that it's going to need to have younger people getting involved in it, continuously. It's like a tradition that we
need to have fresh hearts.
Down, right? Yeah.
It needs a fresh set of minds, new perspective, because the younger generation is going to see it in a whole different light than how the older people who've been with it for decades now and fully understand it. New guys can come in and see a whole nother method and just change the entire way the blockchain works.
Yeah, exactly. So do you have any thoughts on, well, I mean, we will get into this separately, but do you have any thoughts on what it's like for the younger people who kind of grew up with crypto? To them, it was not like there was pre-crypto and then crypto was invented and then, now it was a thing. It was more just like by the time they were really aware of what was going on in the world and in finance and stuff like that, crypto is just a fact of life, right? Like nobody ever had to sit down to you and say like, what's Bitcoin? And you're going to say, no, that's not real. I don't believe in that. It's going to go away. So it's more just like it always existed, right?
Yeah, with the younger generation, a lot of them are in jealousy because they missed the heavy Bitcoin wave. So everyone's trying to play catch up. So a lot of them are more scared to hop on because they feel it's going to just crash. The wave's not going to always be there, but that's the risk in crypto. The wave doesn't always exist. There's going to be the crashes, and you have to be able to handle them.
That actually makes a lot of sense. Maybe growing up in a time where there's so many fads and trends and stuff, people are very aware that if it's trending now, it's already too late to be on it, right? Like if you want to be the one benefiting, you have to have been on the trend before it became the trend, right? Rather, if you're jumping on at the end, you're just like missing it or providing fuel for the people who started it, right?
Exactly. Like with that one gentleman in I think it was like 2018 or 2016, telling everybody to buy Bitcoin when it was like $1.
Yeah. That would
kind of like
that would before that, but yeah.
Oh, gee, that was even before that. Damn.
Bitcoin was $1 in like what, 2010 maybe? Like 2016, it was already $400 or 500 bucks.
Hey, that's like I said, I'm a little background in crypto. I'm still firstly new to this stuff.
No. This is great. This is exactly what you're saying, is that it's how you test your assumptions, right? Is you talk to somebody who doesn't, like in my head, right? I have this huge, back catalog of all these things, but some of what I believe about all that is going to be false, right? But the only way I discover it is by talking to people who come at things from a fresh angle. I think it's just so incredibly important. So actually, speaking of that, let's just get onto the market then. So this week, Bitcoin Cash is $461.05 for 100 megasats, which is down slightly. One BTC sat buys 147.5 BCH sats, which is down a little bit, and one ETH buys 822.7 megasats. They've been having a good time recently on the markets with their ETF getting approved. What do you make of the crypto markets? Like you said, when you got into it, maybe you pretty quickly bought some, and then were you ever interested in trading it or speculating it, or it just happened to rocket up and you benefited and were like, wow, I'm a part of this now?
Pretty much what it was when my friend told me about it, it was like the wave was going up. So I was like, let me just hop on. And then it was a buy in forget. And now I'm here. I want to figure out what I want to do with it, because I want to diversify my wallet. I don't want to have just everything sitting in one wallet when another coin could skyrocket.
Yeah, I sort of remember that when you came on that Twitter space, you would just like started telling us like how you'd accumulated up this like stack, and then it had gone through the roof, and then you're like, no, now I gotta learn to protect it, right? You just didn't really think about it until...
It was insane, yeah, because it skyrocketed all the way up to, let me see, what is it at now? 53,000 total USD. It's 0.07 0.7 Bitcoin.
Yeah. Damn.
And it's
you're doing all right then.
I'm fortunate. I'm very fortunate as a very young person in crypto. Pretty green in crypto, to be honest.
Well, you're on a winner so far, so shouldn't be disrupting your methods. I mean, of course, time is on your side, right? And that's always one of the grand benefits of getting into something where you can just afford to let it sit for a while. If I still had all the Bitcoin I had 10 years ago, I'd be looking for a series of misadventures along the way. Put paid to that a little bit. But do you think that's what is attracting people to crypto still? Do you think that's that kind of get rich kind of vibe, or is anybody interested in the actual ideological underpinnings of it?
A lot of the younger generation, honestly, a lot of them think crypto is the key to getting rich fast, which it can be, but at the same time, it's really not. And it's hard to get them to understand it's a lot more than just throw some money into a coin, wait a little bit, and then boom, you have all this money.
So are they interested then in like the stock market or anything like that, and they see crypto as maybe like an exaggerated version of the stock market? Or is it like only crypto seems fun and cool and interesting, and the stock market, like nobody really cares about that?
With the younger generation, they look at the stock market as kind of like the old people's way of getting rich. They see the crypto as it's the trending way. It's the new path to money. Stock market is this old, outdated method. It still can make you wealthy. It can still set you up for life, but they don't see it as the way they see crypto.
Right. Okay. That's really interesting. Damn. Because, yeah, I mean, I was getting into, stocks when I was a bit of a financially minded kind of teenager, right? So I was buying stocks and stuff, with my parents, had some kind of like managed account that you could have it. And back then there was no crypto. So that was like the way of like, I'm going to be, getting rich and whatever. That seemed how you could get into the markets, but it's completely different now if people can just pick a couple of coins and then be rich. But I guess, I mean, on average, right, most of the people buying crypto are going to lose their money, right? So a couple of people will be big success stories and everybody will be trying to replicate that. Do you get the sense that people kind of know that, so they see it as more of like a lottery ticket, or do they take it seriously in that they actually think, no, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to bust out the spreadsheets, I'm going to develop some kind of trading algorithm or some way of tracking the meme trend and then get onto it ahead of time? Like, in general, are people just doing this kind of as a bit of fun, but they're also, worried about their career path that they're doing some other way? Or do you think people are seriously getting sucked into crypto as this is my one way to make it?
That's a great question, and it's really split between the generation. There are some that see it as this is my one ticket, and then there's the others who are like, I can sit down, I understand this, and I want to make this work. But it comes down to if they can actually understand how the crypto market works and how the graphs work and all of that, because it does take a little bit of research and understanding to understand it. Some people, not to my own horn, like myself, are gifted in where they can just naturally understand the graphs and they have a bit of a head start. But then there's the other group of the generation where they need to sit down, pen and paper, and learn what each graph means, how each drop, what that represents, and how far a bar is going to go up in the market for that set time frame.
Okay. And what about their parents? So I said like 25 to 45, so like 30s is like the bulk of my audience demographic. So they're maybe like a little bit young, but the ones slightly older than them, right, who are in their like late 40s or 50s now would be like your parents' generation, right? So how do they see crypto from the perspective of their kids? Is it like, oh, my parents don't know anything about crypto, they're fucking idiots? Or is it like, yeah, maybe they've got some in their account and they're speculating on it? How does that come across?
It really depends, because some parents, they knew about crypto during the rise of Bitcoin, and some parents did jump on that train, and others were just completely oblivious, nose to the grindstone, trying to just make their money the normal way. So it's really split, but I feel like a lot of people's parents definitely have some type of crypto just stashed away that they forgot about because of it was a rising trend.
Right. Yeah. Okay. All right. Makes sense. I just think like when I was growing up, the thing was, like the internet, my social media, right? Social media was becoming big. And so it was like, haha, my parents are such boomers.
They don't understand this crypto thing.
Yeah, they don't understand social media. They don't get it. Haha. Like, smartphones and stuff. That was all like the province of young people. Of course, it just became generalized throughout society. But there was that generational gap for a while. And it sounds like maybe that hasn't really developed as much with crypto because there were enough of the parents who had young kids who were already jumping on it and were not missing the wave, so to speak. So that's actually really interesting. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, because it can be split between the older parents who had their kids in their 20s, early late 20s, and Bitcoin was on the rise. And you have the part of the generation who are in their 30s, 40s, had their kid, and they already had a career locked down, and they didn't want to take the risk of investing in a coin and potentially ruining everything for their family.
Yeah. It makes sense. That would be quite a spread for that kind of coming of age story for sure. Yeah. Wow, really interesting. All right, we got to talk quickly about BLISS, which we had recently. So we've been hyping it up on this show, and the day one videos are now out on YouTube, so anybody can go catch up with some of them if you missed it. Also, the closing panel and the pre-show was the last episode We'll have the day 2 videos soon as well too, and already out as well is some of the interviews. I did one with David Shattuck and one with Emergent Reasons, which we've been releasing the last couple of days. They've also got a really good response. So if you missed out on Bliss, or this is the first you're hearing about it, I highly recommended to go take a look at some of that. It was a huge success. Everybody there had a great time. It went really well. The live stream, definitely we learned a couple lessons there, but on the whole, everybody really enjoyed it. If you are short on time, I recommend checking out Matthew's keynote on cash tokens and Kalen's, I always get it wrong, Kalen's UTXO talk, plus the closing panel are my top 3 picks for anybody who wants to get a bit involved in that. But I think in retrospect, also, firstly, I just want to say from my own point of view, it was super cool being there. I met a bunch of listeners to the show, which is awesome because it really makes it real for me, right? Like I'm in here talking away and then the listener graphs tick up a little bit, but so then when people come up to me and say, hey, and shake my hand and we talk a little bit about the show and about Bitcoin and stuff, that's just the most awesome feeling. And it really connects me. So now I have in my mind more images of all those people that I met. So you all know who you are. Thank you. I'm hoping I delivered in person. I didn't have anybody say to me like, "Oh, you're really different in person" or anything like that. So I guess same voice, same attitude. But what I took away from Bliss myself is basically that it does, like the rest of crypto just doesn't fucking matter. Seriously, I've been kind of saying it on this show, but having that experience really drove it home to me that when we were all there and everyone was chatting and collaborating and stuff like that, it's like whatever else was going on was basically irrelevant. You need to just double down on the people who are on the same mission and are making it happen with peer-to-peer currency, because the rest of crypto is largely often a grift anyway. They don't know, like trying to tell them about the ideology doesn't get through, trying to tell them about, okay, well, the price went down because of all these factors, doesn't get through to them. Their coins haven't been through splits and civil wars. Their coins haven't, had problems with decentralization and with, sabotage and attack by the banks and the governments and all that sort of stuff. So it's just like, they're just in it to try and gamble and get rich. But once you're sitting down with people who are on message and it's like, okay, now we can actually make some forward progress. So afterwards, I unfollowed a load of people on Twitter. I had about 630 people that I was following on Twitter. I massively cut that down, cut about a third of that. I'm down to like 400 and something, because I just realized all this shit is just irrelevant. So I think maybe that will be reflected in the show, maybe not for this episode, but going forward, I'm maybe just going to be paying a bit less attention to what's going on in the rest of crypto. Obviously, the main things I'll still see because it'll get retweeted and by enough people that it'll come on my radar. But in general, I think, we just got to get it done on our own. So my focus going forward is really BCH related projects and pushing through all the noise of the industry. Jet, you were there, obviously heavily involved. What did you make of Bliss?
Oh, there's a couple things. One is it was great to see, I met so many people in St. Kitts that I had been kind of speaking to for the past couple of years, and then there were people that I got to meet at Bliss that I'd been speaking to since the day I got involved in Bitcoin Cash. And that was awesome and really surprising. But I had a blast, not just at the conference, but going into the city and being able to actually use my Bitcoin Cash. There was one place that I went that was listed in the Coinector app. And the restaurant had rebranded. And so I went to pay with Bitcoin Cash. They didn't accept it. And the waiter that I was speaking to was like, leave that in your review, because, any feedback that we get, makes it more likely to reintroduce it. So I leave this review, and within 2 hours, the owner of the restaurant was like, "We want to do this. We've tried to contact the Go Crypto guys, and they haven't messaged us back." So that was a little disappointing, but yeah, I still had a blast. Ljubljana was a beautiful place. Being able to go, I spent too many, not coins, not full coins, thank God, but I spent too many UTXOs at the bar. But it was nice to be able to bring home some receipts that say like paid in Bitcoin Cash, the same kind of deal as paying the hotel in St. Kitts, paying the hotel, like all of this stuff. I just love being able to go somewhere and not deal with currency conversions. I can like pay all of my bills, go to a supermarket, get some groceries if I need. I'm pretty sure Jonathan had rented out a car with Bitcoin Cash, and that was awesome. On the production side of things, I realized I have so much to like learn and gear to acquire to like really step the game up. So I guess for context to the listeners, before we went, I bought the Ada Mini, which was the thing that we used for camera switching. Coming back, it's like, oh, okay, I need a camera cage, a gimbal, like multiple audio options, some different lighting options, a couple new camera frames so that we can really do multicam live editing and yeah, really step things up. So hopefully I'm trying to get all my ducks in a row now so that next year I can rock up with one case and we're ready to go.
Yeah, there was when you're talking about spending UTXOs at the bar, I was just thinking of there's that one bartender on the last night. She was raking in the tips as the BCH Satoshi's the Celine wallet was filling up fast for her. And I think it was funny because the BCH community does a great job, honestly, of maintaining that culture of, you know, being friendly, saying if people are interested. If they're not interested, okay, you talk to them about it a bit, but that's it. But if they are interested, you get them to download a wallet, you send them some, you tell them to back up their seed phrase, you explain like, look, this could be to Africa or, you know, America instantly for free, blah, blah, blah. And you tell them, you know, all about that and stuff. And just this girl was just raking in the tips, and I just wonder, like, the other guy who was on this bar that night, he would have been thinking, what the hell is going on? Because at the end of the shift, she probably made like twice the value of her actual, you know, shift work just in tips. And if he was kind of, you know, a bit more skeptical of it, or like if I'd been in his spot, I would have been like, what is this? Like, let me download a wallet and also get some. But I think he was still a bit sus on it, even though we were having the event there and everything like that. And so that's just a classic case, you know, of the person who's open to it. That's where the benefit immediately flows to, and then somebody else just discovers they're getting left out in the cold, so then they're going to be the next one to adopt it, undoubtedly, right? That was a perfect little vignette, I thought, of crypto adoption happening there. But yeah, it was a great time. It was a great event, and everybody who was there had a really good time. Jager, you were watching some of the live stream, I believe, but that would have been a bit of a different experience. What did you make of Bliss?
The bits and pieces I caught were kind of funny because when I first caught the beginning, like the first starting of it, it was laggy. Everyone was just moving around, and it was kind of actually pretty funny to watch, seeing how Bliss was still being set up and everything, but somebody started the live stream.
Yeah. Yeah, we still haven't perfected our launching of the live stream. That's for sure. There was like a test stream, and there was a second test stream, and then
it was pretty funny, but it was honestly amazing to see the amount of people in the room for Bliss. I didn't know. I had an idea of how big Bitcoin Cash was since I did a little bit of research on it, and I knew it was a split from Bitcoin. I think it was back in like 2017, 2018 is what it said. And I knew it was a very split community, but I didn't really fully understand how big the community is because there's the Twitter and the Telegram and the Discord. That just only gives me a rough number, but actually seeing all those people in Bliss truly made me understand this is a real community and this is going to go somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, we had 45 people show up from 22 countries and 5 continents, so it was pretty good turnout overall. And that was actually that was actually a lot of people. Like 45 people in a room was it? You know, you kind of think, okay, 45 people. That's actually a lot. It felt like a lot, especially because everyone there was so passionate and excited. You know.
Oh, next year I see you guys breaking 100. Gonna have to get a whole new area to host Bliss.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. That's kind of yet to be determined. But I think the event was enough of a success that hopefully we can justify it and keep things going on. What about other crypto meetups though? Have you been to any other crypto meetups or physical events anywhere in your area?
No, actually, Bliss was the first crypto event I ever attended, like to watch.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Interesting. Because that's another thing. Like, there's just been a long history of people doing, you know, conferences and events and meetups and stuff like that. And they've often kind of struggled to gain traction, right? Like, I've been to a few here or there, but over 11 years in crypto, I've probably only been to the 2 Bitcoin Cash conferences. I've been to one or two. I've been to like one medium-sized meetup group, 2 small Bitcoin Cash meetups, and 1 larger sort of crypto meetup, right? But even over 11 years, that's not very much. And crypto does exist in a bit of a weird sphere where sometimes it's like very online focused and it's hard to get people physically together. So I'm not surprised to hear if you haven't found your way into that. But I wonder if, you know, as crypto gets bigger and bigger and bigger, eventually those things will really catch on everywhere, but they haven't seemingly quite hit critical mass. We've got one other little note from after Bliss, which is that block 848,123 actually triggered ABLA. So ABLA raised the block size from 32 megabytes to 32 megabytes and 151 bytes just for that next block, because the previous it was 16 megabytes. Binance mined it, and there was a ton of traction from emergent coding, so they mined 16 megabytes of transactions, and that bumped up the limit just a little bit. So of course that was not fulfilled, like there was not more than 32 megabytes in that next block after that, but it just goes to show that we launched it and it's live and it's now just a fact of life and it's all working actually. So that was really, really good to see, and I'm really looking forward to more of that moving forward. Okay, so we've got Gen Z and Generation Alpha actually, and crypto. I've got 2 little clips here which Jet is going to pull up that I think recently encapsulate some of the younger audience's view on crypto. Let's get this. First one is from a commencement speech at Ohio State University just a couple weeks ago, and let's have a bit of a listen to how it went down. So there you have it. Some plucky guy decided that he would try and pitch Bitcoin to this massive stadium. How many people are in that stadium? What, like 25,000 or something? Like, decided he was going to pitch them all Bitcoin. and they weren't having a bar of it. You know, the funny thing was that a bunch of these BTC guys commented on it and said, oh, look at these stupid Gen Z people. They don't understand Bitcoin. It's their one life raft away from like inflation. But I kind of felt like this was the opposite. I saw that and I was like, no, they do understand. They understand that this is something that in general has been corrupted into pushing it exactly like he's doing, trying to evangelize it at these inappropriate moments to pump his bags and try and get rich, right? There's the brand has had all of the revolutionary spirit and the cool underground vibe that it used to have sucked out of it. So nobody wants to hear it. It's not the Gen Z don't understand. They do understand it. They just understand that it's a thing about hyping it up to get rich. And if it was an actual usable currency, they would be more open to it. I don't know. What do you think, Jager?
I feel like, because that's the first time I've seen that clip, and that was actually pretty funny that he attempted it, and the entire crowd's reaction was just booing him. You're definitely right about it being an inappropriate time. It's a graduation. It's hot. They do not care to hear about crypto. They're just trying to get their diplomas and go. It's definitely something where there's a time and a place to introduce it to them. They understand how crypto works, but they don't want to follow other people's hype trains. They want to build their own and make their own success, because Gen Z does not want to line other people's pockets. They're over the generational of the rich get richer, the poor stay poor. They're trying to break that generational habit that's been going on forever now.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think like you say, maybe every generation has a sense of, okay, we're going to sort of try and change the system. But I think one thing that has really been notable to me is that Gen Z, they understand that it's not really changing the system so much as the system is not going to work for them at all. Like, it's already just set up to benefit the boomers, which encapsulates essentially anyone older than them, right? And so, like you said, I can see why they would be very paranoid or very skeptical of anyone. Hey, because everybody now understands, like, trying to be an influencer, right? Jump on my hype train, be a part of my thing. And they know that if that's what somebody else is selling, that like they're selling it. They're not naive enough to just be like, okay, this is the direction that everyone's going in, right? Which maybe previous generations, which didn't grow up in that environment of influences and social media and, like you said, gambling on cryptos, they wouldn't get that. They were more resistant to it because it was different, but they weren't resistant to it because it was so much a sales pitch, I think.
Along with it being a sales pitch, everyone sells courses now to try to understand crypto and the secrets behind understanding it, when in reality, a couple of Google searches, hell, even the Bitcoin Cash's website itself has some great links to get an understanding of how the crypto market works. But nobody wants to just give that information for free. They want to benefit, so they charge these stupid ass courses for $25, $50, $100. And that's what makes this generation so skeptical, is when someone tells you something, everyone thinks, oh, there's a catch. He's trying to line his pockets.
Yeah, it makes sense. And having said that, I'm just coming out with my course.
Oh my God.
The secrets of Bitcoin Cash, the Bliss Luminati. We're going to be launching that special NFT drop to my insiders. So everybody can look forward to that.
Literally the topic I'm talking about. God damn. That's too fun. That's too perfect.
No, okay, so yeah, Gen Z really skeptical. Like, I think they're, like you said, they all know about it and they know that they can look it up and everything like that, but they're not going to be sold it out of context or by somebody just trying to grift off it. Like, it has to actually be a real thing that they, because like you said, you were getting onboarded in high school with your friends, like because it's already available, or even through their parents, like you said too, you know, because it's already going to be in that environment, they're going to go to a source that they trust rather than somebody just shill out of nowhere, right?
Yeah, this generation's, especially if it's somebody they know, they're willing to trust the information they tell them compared to a stranger who says, oh yeah, I've been doing this for 10, 20 years. Here's my course that explains all the secrets and tricks and tips, and it'll make you $2,000 in a month quick. Everyone's seen those ads. This generation's sick of it. They see through the bullshit now.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we've got that, and then we've got even the Generation Alpha, the one up and coming below that. I've got another. Give us your take on Generation Alpha. Let's start with that.
God, we're going down. I saw that topic too. I was like, oh God, we're really talking about Gen Alpha. They're their own breed, to be honest. I've seen TikTok clips of how they act, and it's just, it makes me question what this generation is going to become inside of just the crypto market and financial areas in general.
Really? Do they get a lot of pushback?
I mean, just on video games alone, any kid who even sounds remotely like their Generation Alpha is just instantly, they have everything inside of the microtransactions. They just have no concept of what a dollar means.
And I think they're financially irresponsible.
A little bit, yeah. I'm not trying to say they all are, because there's probably some of them in Generational Alpha that do understand the value of money. But for the most part, from what I've seen just on playing video games and running into them, they just blow every dollar on what looks shiny. It's bad. My nephew's the same way. I'm like, bud, you can't blow $200-$300 inside of a game. I used to do the same thing. Oh, this looks great, let me buy it. That's now where I'm like, I'm trying to diversify my wallet and actually set up my life so I can do stuff. It's like, that's not that smart anymore.
Yes, indeed. Okay, well, let's on that theme then. Let's this clip.
Yeah, I'm excited to see it.
Yeah, I think you might be surprised. So, Chet, let's roll it.
Oh, I think I've seen this
Girls,
clip
what's
actually.
just happened?
So, there's an ice cream van there selling just 2 ice creams with 2 chewing gums in it.
Yeah.
For bloody £9 for 2 of them.
£9 for 2?
Yeah, £9. That is going to get nowhere. The one that comes on my street is either £1 a p or £2. Like, he's going to get nowhere with that.
No, he ain't, is it?
No, he ain't.
That's well bad, isn't
You
it?
should know. And he only does bloody card. Stood there with my cash. Bloody hell.
That's well bad, isn't it?
Bloody well bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, bet he can hear me.
Girls, what's just happened?
So, there's an ice
So this is what's going on in
I love it. I love it. Oh my God, that little girl is speaking the truth. It is so ridiculous.
Well, there you go. Maybe they're not so financially irresponsible.
Yeah, no, there are definitely some of them that do understand that the inflation is ridiculous. £9 for 2 ice cream cones. I remember looking at the comment section of that post. It was hysterical.
Yeah, they're really, her outrage truly just connects with me, and I mean the accent and everything. It just makes it so funny. Oh, bloody well bad.
And he doesn't take cash. Only takes card.
Yeah, it doesn't take cash. Exactly.
That ice cream man was them. So
yeah, exactly.
They definitely are one way. They definitely want to make sure everything's equal, but prices are fair. They're not going to put up with expensive things.
Yes. So I think the upshot of this, the reason I put it in there is because things are going to be bloody bad for Generation Alpha, as we're already seeing inflation ramping up. So that will not only be destroying the savings and financial stability of their parents, but they themselves are just going to grow up in this environment with collapsing living standards and mass confusion as the economy just falls apart under the weight of this perpetual money printing. So crypto is, benefiting from this in the way that the older generation are eventually gonna, shuffle off the mortal coil, while Zoomers and Generation Alpha are going to find crypto as a solution. But it really made me think about how you can't explain a solution to someone who doesn't have that problem, which is why for the last 10 years, a lot of crypto advocates have been busy trying to tell everyone about inflation, but nobody really got it. And then now that inflation is ramping up, suddenly a few light bulbs are starting to switch on. But for these younger crowd, especially these ones in Generation Alpha, they are going to grow up knowing that inflation is the world's biggest scam, because by the time they've got their pocket money, it's already going to have been devalued against the ice cream with chewing gum in it, So I don't know, Jet, you're just giggling away over there. What do you make of this?
So I was the shuffling off the mortal coil line got me giggling so hard, but also just that girl being like, "Oh, I bet he can hear me too," like the sass. That was amazing.
Yeah. So the real question, obviously, is how do we connect with this audience? So we've sort of talked, obviously pitching it at your commencement speech is not the right way to go about it. But Jager, do you have any ideas? How do I get a bunch of people your age and younger listening to the Bitcoin Cash podcast? What would be the best strategy?
Well, from following other podcasts, not just like crypto podcasts, but others in general, having a video going so the listeners can actually see the reactions, and like Chet laughing probably had a bunch of listeners laughing. But that's definitely the right step. But on top of it, it just comes down to whether people want to listen to podcasts, because not everyone enjoys just hearing people talk for an hour or two. It's definitely, podcasts have their own little niche circle of, I enjoy doing this because some people listen to this while they work. Some people use it to go to sleep. Some people just have it playing in the background while they're playing video games.
Yeah.
But
so maybe we gotta, we've had a lot of suggestions to do like more sort of clips, and we've done that, but I'm just thinking about, I actually need to get some advice from somebody who is an expert in that, in making the right clips and helping them to go viral. Maybe we'll have to do some more reaction content or something like that,
Well, like with the clips we have in today's podcast, they piqued my interest. I immediately, like, the little kid one was absolutely hilarious. So definitely like small clips where they can pique just a quick interest, get people back to catching up, and it might even make them pay attention more to what the topics are. And instead of just listening in the background, they're actively listening to what the podcast is talking about.
That's actually a good idea. I don't know that I'd thought of that as maybe, we can highlight when we review these little segments of things on the show, we can get in their funny clip and then our reaction, and you can wrap that all up within, a minute or two. And then that gives maybe a nice 1-2 punch of like, we know what's going on, but we're also trying to, add some additional value there. Like, because when we did at BLISS, when we did the Abla explainer video, the little 3-minute video, everyone loved that. That was a smash hit. That was one of the most successful things we've ever done. Everybody said it was really great, and it got like tons more likes on YouTube than any of our other things. And I was a bit surprised, because I had spent all this time and effort making this new song, Bitcoin Sane, but that was like, nobody cares. Everybody was like, the Abla video though, that's popping off, and it was much easier to make the Abla video. So I think we got to take that as a bit of a hint and move more in that direction with the graphics and the subtitles and stuff. It really seemed to hook people, but I think it was condensing down a very serious amount of information on a pertinent topic kind of made a big difference. So I'm going to be trying to do more of that, I think, in the future.
Yeah, like the way you went about the topics with the clip first and then going about all the information kind of keeps people's attention, because when you're just reading off the information, the topics, to a lot of listeners, it can sound a little monotone and it makes them disinterested. But when you put that clip first, there's some content, it piques their mind, because everyone's on the TikTok wave. Everyone's attention span's like a goldfish now. They got 10, 30 seconds to catch them, and then they usually just swipe away.
Yeah.
But with the clip coming in first, they get piqued by what the topic is, because like the little girl was talking about 9 quid for 2 ice creams. They're like, well, what's that got to do with anything? As the clip ends, we got a reaction, and then we can diverse right into the topics of what's going on, and they get a little bit of information, a little bit of content. It just goes hand in hand, and it can benefit the listener's experience.
So tell me, you were recommending this strategy to me, but then you're also saying earlier, okay, I heard about the podcast, so I was busting out the notepad to listen to 3 2-hour sessions and take notes on everything I did and followed it up later. Is that because you are just atypical, or is that a trend? Are people doing that? Are they doing their research?
I mean, there probably are people who are like me and do the research on parts of the podcast they don't understand, and they'll go back and do research. But I don't know how many people are like-minded like that. It was just something in school. I always took notes, and it's just something I've always done, taking notes. So I just followed it through with listening to the podcast, because I'm still fairly new to the crypto world and I'm still diving down this rabbit hole. I'm taking in any information I can, and the information I don't understand, I want to understand. So I have that motivation to write it down and then go back and look at what it is and what it means.
So tell me then, besides the podcast, what are your other favorite crypto news sources or info sources?
Now you got me switching tabs, because I gotta go look at my other thing. I have a whole desktop with crypto tabs.
Really? Wow. I'm just fascinated to hear, because this is like a little sociological experiment right here, because I have in my mind what I'm thinking you might say, but I'm interested. You tell me, and then I'll say whether I would have expected that or not.
Oh, okay. And I just opened up Coinbase somehow.
Okay. Coinbase. All right. Probably could have guessed that.
Yeah. I think everyone can guess Coinbase. It's like one of the most known things for crypto.
Uh-huh.
So besides that, I have I use Webull to look at different stocks of how the stock market is doing. Wait, that's stock market. That's what I want to avoid. But I've used CoinDesk. I got Bitcoin and Bitcoinist.
Yeah.
Blockworks and Decrypt, if you know what Decrypt is.
Yeah.
I feel like you probably do.
Yeah.
But those are the main ones of where I would go in. And then on top of that, there's Reddit as well. A lot of people in some of the coin subreddits just had a handful of information for a lot of my questions that seemed like they were pretty common questions throughout the market.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's kind of interesting. I wouldn't have guessed the block and Decrypt and CoinDesk, but that makes sense. I'm aware of those are the crypto news sources that generally do a pretty good job of packaging it up and checking the rest of the market. I would have guessed, I mean, if you listen to my podcast, you'd be a podcast kind of guy. So the biggest ones there are for sure are Bankless and also What Bitcoin Did. But you didn't say either of them, and you didn't mention any other
when it comes to
podcasts.
Bitcoin podcasts, I haven't really branched out to them yet, because it's more of I don't want to follow an unreliable source, which is an error on my part, because I could have asked questions on other Bitcoin podcasts to listen to.
Yeah. Okay.
To get a reference.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's super interesting. Okay. All right. Well, maybe I'll need to be a bit more involved with those other, like the block and Decrypt. I know them and I follow their stuff a little bit, but I'm certainly not like reading up too much on it. But maybe they are capturing an audience that is open-minded, that I should be paying attention in the comments section of their posts and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, they definitely have a good share of information. They definitely gave me and like Decrypt definitely gave me information on how to secure your wallets. Like I actually just changed wallets. What did I just change my wallet to? I got to reopen up Bitcoin Cash website again.
You change it, like you got a dedicated Bitcoin Cash wallet, or you?
Yeah, I made a dedicated Bitcoin Cash wallet because with Art of Gaming, I plan to be more active in it. So I just want to be able to have a separate wallet so I can stash Bitcoin Cash without worrying of one wallet getting compromised.
Yeah. No, makes sense.
Because I'm the type of person.
Yeah, go on.
I'm the type of person where I like to have multiple security setups, and having one wallet is just never enough to me. I like to have multiple just in case someone finds one. Hey, guess what? You found a wallet with nothing.
Yeah. No, definitely you want to spread out your security practice. It makes sense. All right, I wanted to talk about crypto and the political event horizon. Here we go. This is what we'll put in our TikTok clips. We've got a clip here from Donald Trump to start things off. Chat, fire that one up for us.
I will ensure that the future of crypto and the future of Bitcoin will be made in the USA, not driven overseas. I will support the right to self-custody to the nation's 50 million crypto holders. I say this with your vote. I will keep Elizabeth Warren and her goons away from your Bitcoin. And I will never allow the creation of a central bank digital currency. I will also.
So there we have it. Donald Trump at the Libertarian National Congress or convention or whatever it's called recently showed up and started, speaking on behalf of Bitcoin. He also promised to commute the sentence of Ross Ulbricht. Almost everyone there had these free Ross signs and clearly was caring about that. So he said, look, I'll commute his sentence. And he's also today started accepting donations to his campaign in Bitcoin and I believe other coins as well too. So people were saying, oh, how are you being fooled by this? Of course, he's going to say he's going to free Ross. Of course, he's going to say he's going to protect Bitcoin, blah, blah, blah. But if he gets in, he's not actually going to do it. And I say to that, yeah, probably. Whether he is or isn't going to follow through, the fact that he is talking about it now and making a big point out of it means that he knows that there is political support for it and he wants to be on the right side of the issue, right? What do you make of this, Jager?
I feel like on one side, yeah, he's probably just doing this for votes, but at the same time, the fact he's accepting Bitcoin Cash for his campaign kind of makes it feel like he is serious with what he's saying of protecting the Bitcoin Cash or Bitcoin
I know
itself.
about Bitcoin Cash. I don't think he's taking Bitcoin Cash, just BTC, I think. But he's got on his form. Let me see here. I had on the site. Let's see, which I wondered if he would take BCH. Okay, so here we've got BTC, ETH, Solana, USDC, Ripple, Dogecoin. I don't even know what this one is, and SHIB, whatever this like ninja looking one is. So yeah, he's. I don't know about BCH. Didn't make it onto the list. It seems, but a good spread of cryptos there definitely being accepted.
Yeah, but I mean, the fact he is accepting cryptos, because if he wasn't as serious about it, he probably wouldn't have made the effort to accept cryptos into his campaign. He would have just stuck with what everyone else does. I actually don't know what they do for their campaigns. I haven't paid attention to that. But the fact that he is accepting cryptos kind of gives me a shred of hope that he's serious with what he's saying. But like the old saying is, only time will tell.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's very easy to promise things and not deliver. I saw there was some site that was tracking his delivery from his last 4 years in office. And it was, I can't remember what the exact numbers were, but it was something like about 25% of what he said he'd do, he actually did. And then about I don't know, 30 or 40% he said he'd do, and then he kind of did it. There was some compromises or some changes or whatever, but it sort of kind of got done a little bit, and then there was like 40% that he just completely fell through on. And then they also had a similar thing for Obama in the years before that, who'd been slightly better about delivering on his promises, but I didn't dig into it all to find out what their methodology was or if they were biased or whatever. But that seemed to me to be roughly about right. I can imagine politicians doing a quarter of what they say, and then another quarter kind of getting it over the line, and then about half of it or a third of it just sweeping it under the rug. Like, well, forget that. So that sounds about right to me. So even having crypto in the conversation and having Trump trying to, G people up for that, I think is fantastic, because whether or not he delivers, and I hope he does, I really truly hope that Ross gets out of prison and stuff is done to protect crypto, then the fact that he's talking about it and saying it is already sending the signal to everyone, like that this is an issue that you can't ignore. And I think the same thing apparently seemed to occur to the Biden administration, who people said it was either shortly after this or just before, maybe they'd already got wind of it. The Biden administration apparently started reaching out to the crypto industry in a way that they hadn't up until this very moment, as they tried to sort of backpedal a bit on their more anti-crypto stance, because maybe they did suddenly wake up and realize, wait, there's 50 million people who care about this, and we've just endlessly been hearing about it. Like, we can't afford to be caught on the wrong side of this issue. Jet, did you have any take on that, being a long-time observer of crypto and politics? Have we made it? Because I felt like maybe we've made it over the political event horizon, right? That was always how crypto was going to win. And I said this before, and some people said, you don't want crypto to be partisan. I said, no, you definitely want it to be partisan, because then if one side thinks they can get the benefit from getting on board with it, they get on board with it. And then the other side kind of realizes, shit, either we have to be the anti-crypto party, which is not going to work because loads of people are pro-crypto and not many people are going to actually swing their vote based on anti-crypto, or they have to match it and they also have to be pro-crypto, which I think is what we've suddenly got to seemingly overnight, right?
I feel like it'd be more like a two-step or, a shuffling of step process. Because even with the Biden administration reaching out, didn't they also just veto a bill that allows financial institutions to? Yeah. So like, I could see them being like, oh, well, especially with Trump having been charged, like, oh, this is just another, obviously criminals are using this, but then other countries are going to watch and see that if Trump's donation with crypto is a successful tactic, then they'll start doing it too. And then it's not just this inside the country dealing with whatever policy bullshit they want to push through. It's how do we stay modern? So I think it could still take a long time. I don't think this is like a locked in, like passing of, or like, I don't think we crossed any kind of mainstream line, except for getting more people to talk about it, like boomers that are only involved in politics that are like, oh, now my favorite presidential candidate's interested in crypto. What's this about? Maybe he'll be able to sway some of those Mark of the Beast folks, but yeah, I don't have high hopes.
Okay. All right. You're more negative on this than I am. I'm interesting. I'm surprised. I feel like this is it, guys. We've done it. Like, obviously we haven't won completely, but I think by the time you have one presidential candidate saying there's 50 million crypto adopters and I want to be on their good side, and you have the other one, again, like you said, there's definitely some back and forth. It'll take them a little while, but they clearly seem to be feeling the heat. And I think at that point, where is it going to come to? Like, well, we're going to ban this, we're going to outlaw this. It's kind of done, unless the Democrats really want to take us, like, because they don't have until next cycle, right? You can't wait another 4 years. By then, it won't be 50 million. It'll be 250 million, right? So this is the time for them to do it. If ever since crypto was invented, people have been, when's the government going to ban this? When are the crackdowns going to come? And it's come in this piecemeal, slapdash attack, right? But it's kind of getting to the point where the momentum is just high enough that it's also what I've said on this show, which is the crypto community has every day to fight about crypto, and the politicians only have about 2 days a year because they have 363 days where they got to fight about some other issue, right? So just every time they're kind of taking their eye off the ball a little bit, the crypto community just powering ahead, getting more influential, making more money, buying off whoever needs to be bought off, and kind of getting the job done, right? There was also this coincidental perhaps event where Ethereum suddenly got an ETF approved, which everybody was not expecting that. It was like in May, it was known that it was a possibility, but in general, people were quite bearish on it. They were thinking, okay, maybe it's like a 10 or 15% chance. It seemed like it probably wasn't going to pass. There'd be, okay, Bitcoin's a commodity and it's different or whatever, and ETH is a security and pre-mined and blah, blah, blah. But then at the end of the day, suddenly somehow there was a big turnaround, and suddenly ETH has got an ETF approved, which is great news for BCH because we would be the logical number 3, I think. It's us or Litecoin are by far the front runners to get an ETF next, even if it does take a little while. But now that it's not just Bitcoin, it's going to be very hard to, stall all other options, right? Michael Saylor made a huge about face, by the way, and he's gone from there is no second best to, well, it seemed like there was no second best, but now the regulators have approved Ethereum ETF, so there's going to be a whole crypto industry. He's suddenly come around to the rest of the crypto industry as not being scams and frauds, but actually being just a part of the market that is going to be served. So yeah, I feel like it's over and crypto is now entrenched, and just it would be impossible to ban it or politically bully it off the stage. Jager, what do you think? Do you think we've done it and this is it? It's a one-way trip. There's no going back to bans on crypto and Bitcoin and all that?
It's a fly ball in left field. It can go either way, really. It could be. I'm not 100% on the wave of we finally did it, but at the same time, I'm not fully on the side of they can still ban it. They're not on our side. It's like I said earlier, only time will tell. And I can't pick a side. I always just watch from the sidelines and just got to wait to see what happens.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, like you say, time will tell, but I feel like time has been telling. And again, maybe that comes from just having watched it for so long, like 2013, 2014, people were freaking out. When's the government going to ban this? When are the arrest warrants going to go out? We're all going to end up in jail. Now, a few people have, don't get me wrong, along the way. There's been a few individuals that have unfortunately ended up on the wrong end of the government brutality stick, right? But by and large, the vast, it was literally like everybody was like, we're all going to jail. Like the arrest warrants are going to be out individually for every single person. But at this point, now you've got millions and millions and millions and millions of adopters, and crypto is just marching forward. So anyway, we'll see in hindsight, but I take this as quite a watershed moment, really. And I guess we'll see by probably the end of the year how it plays out, sort of with the election and whether or not things get delivered in terms of like Ross Ulbricht getting out of prison. That would be amazing. That would be crazy. if he did, he would be. I mean, he's already sort of a celebrity in crypto. Getting him like showing up at a crypto conference somewhere and talking about his experience or something would be absolutely amazing. And his perspective on how it had all changed in the last 10 years, because who knows how much or little he's been able to follow it as well too, would be unreal. So yeah, my best wishes to him to make it out of prison, and hopefully also that will be a trend in the right direction. Roger's still in Spanish prison as far as we know too. So there's plenty of people, and Assange as well too. Plenty of people still needing help on that front. Okay, we also had this week, Vitalik came out of left field a little bit, writing up a blog about reading The Block Size War by Jonathan Beer and hijacking Bitcoin as well too, and his thoughts on the matter in hindsight and comparing the two. Now, this is a pretty big deal because Vitalik writes these blogs and they get a lot of traction. Like the whole crypto industry really pays attention when Vitalik puts out a blog post. So in this post, he did acknowledge that Lightning Network has basically failed totally. He pointed out that there was a lot of censorship of the big blockers, of course, and that SegWit was a bit of a scam that he wasn't ever really on board with. And he did also rightly criticize the BCH side for their incompetence, our incompetence in some parts of the initial attempts to fork. And of course, for the BCH community, it's like, well, we were at war and we were under a little pressure and, the best was done at the time, but he was more from the outside saying, yeah, a lot of mistakes were made that were really obvious. And Craig Wright sort of dragged a whole bunch of people into it and tarred the whole big blocker thing and all that. So he's correct about that, I think. But fascinatingly, he also mentions ABLA. He links to a blog post or a Reddit post by Bitcoin Cash Audist, which was about 10 months old, but then he misattributed it to Bitcoin Unlimited. He seems to have thought that it was the emergent consensus proposal from Bitcoin Unlimited way back when that was mentioned in the block size war. Like he read these two books and then had a quick, look at what's the latest in BCH and figured we'd just followed through on that thing several years later. So he didn't really realize that ABLA was something new, which is super fascinating. I wrote a reply and a bunch of other people did. Who knows whether he did or didn't see that. Most likely he didn't. So I take it as a win that he was at least getting the message out to people to look into hijacking Bitcoin and read up about Bitcoin Cash and stuff like that. But it seems like his perspective is still stuck several years in the past, the same way that we've had with Eric Wall, where he was like saying BCH was just these rebels who forked off and maybe they had some good ideas, but it kind of didn't come to much. But that, and they're just forking in this. So they're basically irrelevant, which is basically where BCH was at in 2020. But a lot of the crypto industry is still frozen at that moment in time. And it seems like Vitalik even had a reason to look into it. And I think if he'd watched any of the Bliss streams or he'd listened to any of this podcast or he'd even just read up a bit more closely on the Reddit rather than just searching for what he was looking for and moving on, he would have figured that out. But it seems like he didn't. So that's definitely something we're going to have to keep an eye on. You're laughing again here, man. There's a lot of laughing going on. What's your Vitalik opinion?
I mean, I haven't given a damn about Vitalik's opinion in many years. But just the slow pause, it seems like he didn't. Made me giggle.
But it's a big deal because Vitalik honestly is one of the most credible people in the whole of crypto, right? When he's talking about stuff, everyone is paying attention. Obviously, the entire ETH community is like worshipping at his feet just about. So they will all take it very, very seriously, whatever he says. And then he's big enough that a lot of the BTC people will also pay attention. And then anyone in all the ETH EVM forks is also like paying attention to what, Vitalik says. Like it's even crazy. On Twitter, he has like 5.3 million followers. And then someone like Lynn Alden has like 600K or something like that. And Eric has 120K, right? So he is just absolutely in this next, like, it's like him and CZ and one or two other people that are kind of in that whole crypto industry sphere. And it's just crazy how much traction he has. So
well, he's
also a little bit.
He's also had the opportunity of, like yelling at Craig Wright on stage. So I respect him for that, but I don't really give a damn. I mean, yes, I understand what he has to say will influence like the overall market, but that's so many degrees of separation between where I'm at in the space that it doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, but he had, and people were kind of putting some lashback, especially on Reddit, were like, oh, what do you mean, Vitalik, why are you making all these excuses for the small blockers and blah, blah, all this stuff that they did. And they were also saying, oh, it's because his bags are threatened because the BCH community is now upgrading and is going to be, you know, able to challenge ETH and stuff. Come on, guys, that's not what's happening. Like, honestly, Vitalik is not secretly trying to protect his ETH bags. Like, he's a billionaire and set for life and is busy doing his alternative society experiments and sometimes tinkering around with the ETH fucking issuance, right? He doesn't care what happens in BCH. It's not like some big upcoming threat. He just didn't look into it that deeply enough to realize, like, wait, the comeback is on. That hasn't occurred to him yet. Maybe it will by 2025 or 2026. Something will give him a reason to look into it. And now that he's read Hijacking Bitcoin, he might, like, Hijacking Bitcoin just goes up to that same thing about whether the cash token, the eCash fork is at. It kind of stops there and it goes, okay, they were still having some forks. Maybe they can figure it out, right? There's not really stuff from my memory in there about cash tokens, or maybe there's only Abla very briefly mentioned, which is maybe why he mistook it for this other thing. I don't know. But yeah, it's just crypto is starting to pay attention, like I said, but there's a big difference between, oh, BCH is still around and like, wait, what's the latest on this? Jager, what do you make of all this? Do you know much about Vitalik? Do you care what he has to say at all?
Not gonna lie, I've heard of Vitalik, but I know about nothing about him or anything about who he is in the crypto world. Obviously, he seems like he's a pretty big figure. Is a reliable source on crypto information. Me personally, I don't know anything about him, so his opinion doesn't mean much to me. But after today's podcast, I'm definitely going to do a little bit more research, and I'll definitely hit you up and tell you a different opinion if there is one.
Definitely. And I guess maybe this is a good time then, for listeners to the show that don't know. So Vitalik he was one of the co-founders of Ethereum, and he's pretty young. Like, he's actually a little bit older than me, but he's still like young in the crypto sense, in that he was getting into Bitcoin in 2012 or 2013 when he was, I guess, 18 years old probably. And so at the time, you know, there wasn't many people involved in crypto at all, let alone very many 18-year-olds. And he started working at Bitcoin magazine. In fact, I think he even he didn't co-found it, I think, but he was very early involved in Bitcoin magazine. Maybe he did. Anyway, he was involved in Bitcoin magazine right at the very sort of beginnings, and he did some stuff with that. And then he's this technology kind of guy. So then who already knew a lot about computer science and programming and everything like that. And then he was involved in Bitcoin, but because of the stagnant attitude of the Bitcoin core development team, which several years later would lead to the Bitcoin Cash split, he decided, look, if I want to experiment with all this stuff, I'm going to just have to do it my own way. So he got a bunch of other people who were mostly like older than him, and they started Ethereum. And then being involved in that, he got a share of the initial like pre-mine, basically. And then now that ETH is where it is, he's like a crypto billionaire. And he's got a lot of clout because he's been obviously critically involved in Ethereum all throughout its life, and as a result, he's largely responsible for pioneering the EVM that lots of other crypto chains have popularized and stuff. Anyway, the last year or two, he's drawn back a little bit. Like, he's less active than I think he used to be, but he started getting into, he did this thing called like Zuvalu or something, which was some kind of alternative hippie crypto retreat kind of thing, where he was trying to get people interested in different ways of organizing society or something like that. So anyway, he's just a bit on another planet these days, but it was very interesting to see him. I think it was just that Hijacking Bitcoin got released, and that's why he started paying attention again. But anyway, if he in the block size where he was a self-described medium blocker, or at least that's how he's come to justify it in hindsight. He talks about it on the Lex Friedman podcast, if anybody's interested in hearing his thoughts about that. But he would have a similar view to what is today the Bitcoin Cash view, right? Before all the at the time there was all the BSV people in there as well who wanted unlimited gigablocks, and he was kind of like, that's stupid. So they're all now out. So he would actually be quite a good fit for BCH now if he wanted to get excited about it. But the last we've heard from him on that until now was when he replied to me on Twitter. I think, when was that? Maybe a year ago or something. And I asked it, he did an AMA, and I said, what do you think of BCH now? And he said, you guys seem like maybe you're getting it back together. Good luck. That was it. So he didn't look into it then, and he didn't really look into it now. So we're still waiting for something to trigger it. But that would make a huge difference if he did. Okay, so that's where he's at. He's still a bit stuck at XEC 2020 split BCH idealistic rebels that never really got it together. We have also a nice clip here from our wizardly friends at the Taproot Wizards, Eric Wall making a strong bid to get in the intro for next year, 3 years running. Let's hear what he had to say about it.
To the point of like, why is it like, if you can make very complex things and destroy Bitcoin, if OpCat existed, like, why don't we have that? Like, why hasn't it happened on Bitcoin Cash? And the answer to the question is that, well, Bitcoin Cash has, first of all, Bitcoin Cash has a number of other introspection opcodes, so that if you wanted to build covenants on top of Bitcoin Cash, it's not even like necessary to use CAT specifically. But the broader point is that, well, these MEV concerns would only really materialize on Bitcoin Cash if Bitcoin Cash, first of all, started to build expressive environments on top of itself and had lots of MEV. Like, these issues don't emerge. Like, the only way that these issues emerge is if you have a lot of DEXs and arbitrage opportunities and MEV, and that you don't get that from just the opcodes alone. It's the ecosystem and the states and.
Well, guys, I think you're. It's ultimately
very, very hypothetical.
It's the same question.
I think you guys are getting.
It's the same question as like, why is America the only country that like went to the moon? You know, like other countries have like resources equivalent to like 1950s America. So like, why has only, this been achieved in one geographic region? It's sort of the same thing. It's not necessarily just about like some sort of like raw resources or potential. There's a number of reasons why sophisticated engineering challenges are risen to in one community versus another. And it's not just about that, like theoretically it could be done. I think if you are a smart dev and you're saying, I'm not going to build on Bitcoin, and where can I build the coolest rollup? You're not necessarily going to say, okay, I'm going to go and do it on Bitcoin Cash because they have the technical, resources to be able to do it. You're probably going to build an Ethereum startup. So I think that if Bitcoin Cash were the only other thing in town, then people probably would build these things there, given that there's like the technical propensity. But like the builders aren't there in the same way.
Also, just for context on this entire conversation, for those who are listening and are wondering why the hell we're talking about Bitcoin Cash, I was today years old when I learned that Bitcoin Cash has already adopted OpCat. So that's just maybe useful context for this conversation. So yes, OpCat has already been battle tested by a blockchain kind of similar to Bitcoin. So yeah.
So in their quest to get OpCat activated on BTC, the Wizards have, of course, uncovered the fact that BCH shipped OpCat along with a bunch of other upgrades 6 years ago and with absolutely zero controversy. And so now them and the rest of the Ordinals crowd are in the position of trying to justify or rationalize why that isn't a sign that the thing they want now we did 6 years ago without any drama. And so, like, we are the more competent developer community, clearly, but they need to find some excuse or some way of explaining to themselves why that isn't the case. Of course, I'm very glad that they've got to the point that they now recognize that we're in the future relative to them, and by a very long way too. That was 6 years ago. Like, that is very old news in BCH. So you've got a few kind of different excuses. You've got there, Eric is trying to say, well, the reason they don't have a lot of MEV is basically because the ecosystem is too small, that if it was bigger, then there might be more comparable to BTC. That's kind of true, but kind of not. It is true that our ecosystem is small, and maybe as it grows, we'll get some issues with, MEV and stuff like that. But that's not really the root of the issue, because it is a UTXO chain. So there's less opportunity for MEV in the first place, and we can design around that. The other guy, I think that's Domo, but I don't know for sure. He was talking about, only some communities rise to these engineering challenges. He's trying to analogize BTC to being like America in the space race. And he's right that, okay, like, if there's no reason to do it, even if you have equivalent resources, you're not necessarily going to do it. There's more at stake in what happens in any one community. But he's trying to say, like, BTC is going to rise to this grand engineering challenge when it's the other way around. BCH already did OpCat, so we've risen to the challenge, and BTC is trying, well, at least their little camp is trying to get it going on BTC 6 years later. This is supposedly in service of building these big ZK snarks, which, again, we don't need to. Like, we're just already surpassed that, but they're still, playing with their little toys over there, trying to get that together. So reality has now got to the point that they're desperately trying to justify how is it the case that we think we're the smartest guys, but we're struggling to do what these other guys are just light years ahead of at this point. So anyway, I'm glad that they at least have got to that point, that it took a little while to even get them the message that, guys, we're actually in the future, but they do now recognize, at least this half of the BTC community, that we are in the future. I also thought Isabel Duke, who comes in at the end there with her, kind of similar. It's just so funny. It's like the, what do you call it? That vocal inflection of just like her mind also trying to comprehend, I've got a Bitcoin Cash, but these are these stupid idiots that we can just ignore and aren't doing anything. Like, she doesn't know what is the big deal, with OpCat or not. She's not necessarily like a developer or anything, but she's now realizing that she's listening to these guys who she thought were the smartest, guys to listen to. But apparently there's another level beyond them of guys who already had left them in the dust. And she's just now realizing that. So I poked her about that on Twitter, and she wrote back and said, lol. And I said, no, if you have any questions, like, I'm happy to talk to you about it. But I think it'll be a while for her and obviously the rest of them on that call to kind of work their way through their cognitive dissonance and come to the table on that. Jager, what do you make of all of this? If you've been listening to the show, you would have heard about Eric Wall and his adventures a few times. Have you dug into any of that?
Honestly, I have not dug into anything involving Eric yet. I've been meaning to, but I've been kind of holding off, waiting for my little brother to play a little bit of catch up. But we're going to be diving more into more of these figures inside of the crypto world pretty soon. And I'm excited to dive deeper in this rabbit hole, and I'm dragging my brother with me.
Yeah, there's a lot to it. Jet, did you have a take on this OpCat ideas that they're coming to?
Not much, but I do think that Isabel, is it Isabel or Isabella?
I think it's Isabel.
Yeah. So I think that Isabel kind of acts as the average listener there, which is fantastic. I think while she didn't offer any technical contribution to the conversation, I think she was the most valuable person in that conversation. So it was nice to see. I remember I caught like the end of this space when it was happening. I think I just woke up or something. It's nice. Yeah, it's nice to see these things change. And how many clips of Eric do we have at this point?
we're gonna have to do a supercut at one point. Eric, if you're listening to this show, man, it's all in good fun, man. Well, here we go. Time for another Eric roast. He fucking bailed on Bliss. After saying that he was gonna be there, he then fell through on that. He sent me a nice message saying, "Hey man, I'm sorry," and like explaining a little bit. And yeah, I understand. You know, like honestly, I'm looking forward to meeting him at some point. But you know, there was speculation leading into the event while we were there on the sort of the day before and stuff, if he would actually rock up as promised. And in the end, it proved to be no. But I think it's just funny that these guys, it's now got to the point, where they know that we're in the future, and so there has to be an explanation for why don't we stop doing what we're doing and join these guys. That would be the default, logical, smart, obvious thing to do. So it really comes down to finding some way to explain. Like the laser eyes don't have to do that because they can just say they're stupid shitcoiners. But now that Wizards are trying to get in OpCat and having a rough time doing it, at least so far, they've had to make comics and do all this stuff. OpCat shipped on BCH like without controversy. And Eric even says in the clip, like, they don't even need OpCat because they've got something better than that. They've already got the introspection opcodes. So not only have we already got what they want, but we've already got the thing that they wish they could have if they were able to get their dev community in order, which of course they can't because it's full of zealous cultists. And then and that was 6 years ago, right? What is BCH since then? It's just been, like, we just shipped Abla. We've got cash tokens. We've got the 64-bit integers. We've got the VM limit tweaks coming up, and maybe UTXO commitment. It's just like one thing after another. And I said this on the show like a couple of years ago. I'm sure you can go back to those old episodes where we talked about Eric finding, were we the bad guys? Were we on the wrong side? And I just said, like, doesn't even realize we're already 4 steps ahead. And now we're not 4 steps ahead, we're 6 steps ahead. We're just getting further and further ahead. So eventually it's got to get to a point that he just capitulates and he just says, all right, we're fighting a losing battle here, trying to save the network effect of BTC. It's going to be cash wizards that's going to happen. But just I don't know when he'll get around to that. And then once 1 or 2 of them switch, the rest of them will all come along too, like we can hear in this clip. These guys who Isabel already thinks are the smartest dudes, if they're all jumping on the BCH train, she's going to follow, and so will the rest of everyone in that stream of things. So yeah, we also had briefly as well this week Andreas Antonopoulos coming a bit out of semi-retirement to say he wanted to do a block size increase on BTC. Again, probably about 7 years too late for that kind of opinion, but decided to throw his hat in the ring there. He sort of was saying, look, we do need to do some upgrades, but privacy is more important than CTV and covenants. So once again, we're just seeing like everybody's at cross purposes over there in BTC land, because half the people don't want to do anything, and the people who do want to do stuff, they all want different things amongst each other too, so they can't really get critical mass going. But it just goes to show that once again, BCH being vindicated. So we're really just waiting for the sand to run through the hourglass on when they all capitulate and join BCH at this point. And like I said, that's kind of why I've given up a bit on talking to them. It's pointless. We just got to accelerate ahead until they finally join up. Okay, we've got community comment of the week. Comes from Peter Risen, who said on Twitter, which are the best Bitcoin or cryptocurrency technical conferences nowadays? Are there any events similar to the old scaling Bitcoin conferences? Jonathan Silverblood wrote back and said, BCH Bliss was a mix between technical and non-technical. About half the attendees were people involved in the space as builders one way or another. Talks on subjects like smart contract development, UTXO commitments, and new projects in the BCH ecosystem. And Peter replied to him and said, "That looks like it was a great event. Glad to see there's still a strong technical community doing development for BCH. I took a break to have 3 kids and build a house. And coming back now, I'm puzzled that the technical discussion I used to love seemed to have disappeared." End quote. So for people who don't know, Peter Risen is a Bitcoin OG who's involved in Bitcoin Unlimited, I believe, and he's done a ton of good research into scaling proposals and how big blocks could get to global currency and all that kind of stuff. So if he is coming back into the scene and is interested in BCH and poking around, I'm thrilled. I would love to see that. He's definitely an A player, and it would be great to have him back on the BCH team. So it's good to see that he's getting back involved. And I just thought it would be a nice one to throw in there too, because, okay, Donald Trump's getting keen on Bitcoin. Vitalik's looking at BCH again. Eric wants to do OpCat. Andreas thinks you could do a block size increase. Peter Risen is coming back. This is what I've been saying for the last couple of years, and now we're starting to see it. There'll be a point that everybody's going to start converging on BCH again, and suddenly our small little community will just blow up in size as there's a little snowball of influential people all joining the movement again. Jager, is this also someone you don't know about, or what's your take here?
So I actually did end up seeing this post on my timeline, but I didn't like fully read it. I kind of just saw it was about BCH. I was like, oh, sweet, more BCH on my timeline. Perfect. That's what I want. And just liked, favorited, usual interactions. But this is definitely someone I've heard about, at least. This isn't someone of like, oh, I have no idea who this is. I've heard about him. I've seen a few of his posts before. And
all right,
kind of exciting to see that he's going to be returning now, and it's going to be exciting to see what this holds.
It would be nice to see him go to something like Bliss in a year's time, because I remember watching some of his early talks. I mean, not too long ago, and even like a year ago when I was looking into NFC payments again, like, I think it was his talk that was the only one that was like, not just, oh, maybe this would be a fun idea, but into the technical details of like, how do we make an application for a Java card that can do these signatures? And yeah, I would love to see him come back into the fold. I will say I've only interacted with him once when I was applying to be a member of Bitcoin Unlimited, and he voted against me, so I'm still a little salty about that.
Bad blood. This is that crypto drama that we need.
Yeah.
It's our next clip. Jet versus Peter Risen, the untold beef. You're hearing about it first time on the Bitcoin Cash podcast. Calling out Peter Risen. Come step in the ring, sir. Let's hear it.
The full beef is that so he voted nay, and I messaged him privately, I think on Telegram, and I was like, hey, why did you vote against me? And he said, because this is our first interaction and I don't know you. And I was like, yeah, okay, that's fair. We do have a question in the chat that we didn't get to. This is from early on. I don't even know if the listener is still here, but do you own any meme coins? And if so, which ones?
I actually don't own any meme coins. I've thought about buying meme coins before just for the kicks and giggles of it, but I've always seen it as it's a meme coin. It's not going to make any value. It's not worth the risk of putting my money into it just to lose it for the memes.
Oh, so you're not Doge to $1 then, huh?
No, I'm not Doge I'm not Doge to $1.
All right, welcome back, Jeremy.
Hey, glad to have you.
Yes. We'll do Q&A from the chat, maybe, or something.
Yeah, we were just picking up a couple questions there while you were away.
All right. Well, don't let me interrupt. We got a couple more?
There was that one, and the other one is just if we have any news about Roger, and I don't think we do. So
no, still in Spanish prison, as far as I know. He must be getting sick of it. Bloody hell. Like, I mean, I'm sure when he first got arrested, apparently he was like in good spirits and stuff. Maybe he was thinking like, oh, here we go again. But give it 48 hours for processing, blah, blah, blah. And I'll be out on like, day release or whatever, post a bond, and then I can fix it up with the lawyers after that. But he's been in there like a month now or more. So I'm sure he's starting to get a bit like, guys, my life's slipping away here, like on charges that are apparently, still vague or a bit trumped up anyway. Like, so ridiculous. So yeah, no good news on that front, I don't think. Or no news of any kind, really, good or bad. All right, meme of the week. This one comes from David Shattuck with his experience at Bliss. Speaking of, he posted on Telegram, my boarding pass didn't work in Amsterdam. They asked me to step out of line and go talk to this guy at another desk. I was like, oh, here it is. Can't get back into America, straight to jail. But then the guy just printed a new boarding pass and wished me a pleasant flight. Smiley face. What is that? Cross-eyed smiley face emoji.
It's like the capital XD from before emojis
XD.
were popular.
Okay, XD. All right, yeah, XD.
The old school emoticon.
Yeah, exactly. This is the XD. So yeah, I just thought this was funny when he wrote this. I laughed because it's definitely true. Like, we didn't have any issues like that. We had some people that weren't able to come to Bliss because they had problems with getting their visa approved and stuff beforehand, but we didn't have any problems with anybody like running into problems with like airport security or anything like that. But I said before the conference, like, guys, like, don't be all blinged out in your BCH gear and stuff, like going through the airports. Just keep it low key, and if they ask, just say I'm here for a tech conference, or I don't know, traveling or whatever. Don't get into the weeds of cryptocurrency adoption with airport security. So anyway, I was glad that worked out. But when he posted that, I was thinking that was funny because he'd also been traveling around before. So I'm sure he was thinking, here we go. Now it's going to turn into 20 questions of like, where have I been and what have I been doing in Europe and all that.
I think next time we've got to do a pilgrimage, because like I saw Ryan went to Venice afterwards, and I was like, I was just in Venice. And then David going to Amsterdam. I also went to Amsterdam afterwards. I think, and I was thinking about this too, I think it would get annoying real quick. But if a bunch of BCH people like rented out a house for a month or something, I don't think we're all agreeable enough to really do that. But I think it'd be a good time.
Well, you say that, but that's what we had no problems at the conference, right? I was expecting at least one person to get in an argument with somebody else, or somebody to be salty about their room or the food, or like anything, like any event with more than two people, you're almost guaranteed that somebody's going to have some kind of problem, right? But we had zero. And I was thinking about that. I thought, why is that? Is that because on our first try, we have just delivered the world's best event? No, that definitely wasn't it. What happened was just that people in the BCH community, firstly, were glad that they were having any conference at all, I think, but also secondly, they're just already chill people, right? Like this whole, libertarian, voluntarist kind of vibe is actually a pretty good one, which is that people are just kind of like, I'm going to be responsible for myself. I'm going to make sure I have a good time. And like, I'm not going to get too stressed about small stuff, So yeah, that actually worked out really nicely for us. But yeah, this one made me laugh. Okay, we got a message to the community. Jager, you've listened to a bunch of the show. You know exactly how it goes. This is your chance to speak to the Bitcoin Cash community with any story or point of view or thing you think they need to know and be aware of.
All right. When you get into crypto, don't expect to just instantly make thousands upon dollars. This is a high risk, high reward thing. It's a high risk, high reward game. It is a long run game. You have to be patient, and you have to be willing to accept losses. If you're too scared to lose out on a coin you have, don't invest in it. If you have to be willing to accept the risk of losing money.
Yeah, good advice. I think, like they say in crypto, don't invest more than you can afford to lose. But as I have said, that I like to say, don't invest more than you understand. So start small with money that you're prepared to throw away. And then as you get more understanding of what's going on, how to look after it, which coins are going to last and all that, then kind of ramp it up from there. But you don't need to be too fancy about that otherwise. Did you have anything else you wanted to bring up on the show? I mean, I know you said you were there with your notepad and stuff like that. I just wondered if you had any other questions or anything you wanted to throw in.
If I figure out where the hell I put my notepad, I don't. Oh, there it is. What the hell did I have? One question I had was, what's the end goal with Bitcoin Cash? Is it to become like Bitcoin, or is it to become something better? Like, I don't really understand what the whole goal is.
Yeah, so I have a FAQ on my site, which is, let me just look up the title right now. But it is something like, here it is. It's, what do you mean by following Bitcoin Cash on its rise to global reserve currency, right? So I say that at the start of every show, following Bitcoin Cash on its rise to global reserve currency. So what I think that means is that Bitcoin Cash is going to be the #1 most transacted currency in the entire world, replacing and then far exceeding the current trade of the US dollar. The vast majority of the world population, I guess, will stop counting or caring at about 6+ billion people, is using Bitcoin Cash every single day on chain for all of their economic activity, or the vast majority of it at least. So grocery shopping, corporation spending, government payments to the extent there still is governments at that point, charities, automated DeFi, everything will just all be Bitcoin Cash. Obviously you can have automated stuff, AI stuff as well too. And fiat currency is gone. That'll be the end of fiat by the time you have 6 billion people using BCH and the rest using some kind of crypto or some, gold-backed tokens or whatever it is they're doing at that time. All of the fiat currencies are just hyperinflated to worthless. So that's my end goal, is that everyone in the world, but I think at about 6 billion people you've basically got there, is using Bitcoin Cash for all their daily commerce.
Okay. Yeah, I understand that a little bit.
I mean, much more simply, I think Jeremy's view is very grand, and I also support it, but much more simply, I like to think of it as, if I can pay my power bill, pay my groceries, pay my rent or mortgage or whatever it is, I just want to be able to live off of this and use it as money in my day-to-day life. And I think if the more people do that, the closer we get to global reserve currency.
He summed it up perfectly, because I'm stupid. Then that's kind of one of the reasons why I've been pretty heavy in watching the podcasts and doing my notes and everything, is I genuinely do support the idea that the Bitcoin Cash has. I feel like it's going to be a very revolutionary changing coin, and if we reach that point where we can pay everything, like he was saying, bills, groceries, hell, even gas, with Bitcoin Cash, that'd be changing everything.
Absolutely. Do you have another one?
Not really. You went over a lot of the things I was going to have questions for.
Well, what were they? Out of curiosity, what were the things going to be?
One of them was how the blockchain itself actually works, because that itself still is kind of confusing for me, and understanding how it works and all the different numberings in the blockchain.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's talk about that. That's not something that I think we've ever really done in detail on this show, and maybe we should do an episode about that at some stage, right? But basically, the way you need to think about it, the way I try and explain it to people is, so you understand that a bank just has a ledger of transactions, right? Jeremy sent money to Jet sent money to Jager sent money to Sally, right? So they have a line, A sent money to B, right? Mm-hmm. Now, they put that essentially in a giant spreadsheet, which is their database of all who sent money to who, and then they can figure out who has how much money And if they need to look up who sent money to who, then the information is there, right? So Bitcoin or any cryptocurrency is like having that same spreadsheet in essence, but doing it spread across a network of computers like BitTorrent. I don't know if you know BitTorrent. If you want to torrent a movie or a copy of Linux legally, then the way that works, right, is your computer goes online and it asks a network of other computers for the related information, and all those computers just send in the information, right? So you're not necessarily getting it from one place. You can kind of get 10% of the file from here and 10% here and 20% here, and then at the end you put it all together and you've got the file, right? And if everyone has the same file, then they can all send you different chunks of it, and at the end, as long as you put it back together the same way, then now you have the same file and you can send that on to other people, right? So if you had a spreadsheet, like a bank ledger of a history of everything that happened, but you also had it being distributed around to everyone, that's where you've got a blockchain with Bitcoin Cash. Now, how do you stop people frauding it? That's what mining is that you have to back your entry on the ledger with energy, which is basically proving that you are serious about this copy of the ledger, because otherwise somebody could just spam it with 10 million different things and nobody would be able to get to the bottom of what was actually going on. So that's what mining is where you're trying to guess a very large, well, in some cases, very small, like random number to attach onto your new block, your new set of entries onto that spreadsheet, because that raises the barrier to being able to add to it. So you only have people who are very serious and have put a lot of their computer hardware and a lot of their money in the form of energy bills into putting it in there. So then as each person adds a block, it adds more credibility to all the transactions before it. And yeah, that's sort of the main concept. I can explain in more detail if you want, but yeah, ask me any questions. Is that clear?
It helped if I was unmuted. Yeah, that was pretty clear. I have a general grasp of how it works now. Definitely going to take that information and backtrack on more research to better understand it, because I don't have any questions off the top of my head right now.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and for anybody who is curious about all this stuff, if you go on bitcoincashpodcast.com, I have a Start Here page, which has explanations about some of this. And you can also, of course, just go on YouTube, and if you type in how does Bitcoin work or how does blockchains work or something, there's people who've already made, videos with hundreds of millions of views that are very highly, rated or whatever, with that just break this all down in simple terms. And it is a useful thing to know about how it all works under the hood. We don't tend to cover a lot of that on this show because we're already like way down the rabbit hole and we're dealing with current news and all that sort of stuff. But it's very important info to have for sure. All right, cool. Unless you got one more question, otherwise we'll wrap it up.
No, that was pretty much it for today. That's pretty much all I had.
All right, brilliant. So we got to do our supporter appreciation. Thank you to our donators. You're the best. Thank you to our patrons, Ricky and HP. Thank you to our sponsors, General Protocols, BCHball.com. We're going to have a new flip starter coming soon. I haven't got around to polishing it off yet, but we will need to do that for episodes 116 to 125. So you can look out for that one. And start guide, FAQs, links at www.bitcoincashpodcast.com. If you're new, you can listen to episode 85, where we explain all the show and what's going on here and covering all that, how we're going to get 6 billion people on board and all that involved. You can check out Selene Wallet at selene.cash if you actually want to transact in BCH. Of course, I recommend everyone to go take a look at the BLISS content as well that we've got too. It's all on the YouTube channel and on Twitter, and it's on the website as well too. If you look up the FAQs and then events, there's a BLISS. You can click on that and all the videos are there. So take a look at that to catch up with the latest and greatest in BCH. And our shout outs for the show. Jager, you're first up. Or anything you want to give a shout out to, and where can people find more of you?
Well, you can catch me on my Twitch pretty much every day of the week except Wednesday and Thursdays. The majority of my content's either Call of Duty or DayZ if you're in for adventures. On Instagram, it's Jager. Same with Twitter. I'm always able to reach out. You can always reach out any questions about content creating or even crypto. If I have the knowledge in it, I'm more than willing to share it. If not, I can always refer you to somewhere that's credible. But yeah, those are the main places you can catch me. Cannibal Jager on Twitch. It's Jager everywhere else.
Love it. Jet, do you have a shout out?
I have 3. So first one is to the bar staff lady at the Bliss Hotel. I believe her name was Jessica. The second one is to Morgan, because I think just having someone there to be like, this is what I'm using and here's why, immediately, like, so many things clicked for me. It's like these cascading puzzle pieces just coming together. Okay, I got it for the next time. And the third shout out is to Alex's dad, Brian. We were having a bonfire yesterday, and I can't remember. I think we were talking about like carbon credits and how airlines are being weird and CBDC is rolling out. And I was like, this is the perfect time to bring up cryptos. I was like, this is the, proper use case for it. Here's how you can avoid this shit. And he just kind of stopped and he looked at me and he's like, the banks are afraid of you. And I feel like I'm just a small, I'm just doing my part for the podcast. I'm not really that vocal. I don't do meetups on it anymore. And to know that there's, so many more people on the same mission just feels so good. Like we're getting the ball rolling.
Yeah, we are. We didn't do a slide about it actually, but Australia has just passed some digital ID legislation. Maybe we'll have to cover that next time, or if it comes up related. But yeah, it is happening. It is like every day we're trying to make it with Bliss. Eric's like struggling away with his OpCat, and digital ID is rolling out. So let me get your take on that quickly, Jager. Like, do you think Gen Z is aware of this whole idea of, well, what if all your money and everything got all tracked and then the government was able to just assign your money to only be usable, according to what they decided was correct or not?
I mean, from the side of social media I'm on, it doesn't look like Gen Z has noticed it at all. But there's probably a large portion of Gen Z that does know what's happening and are trying to make an effort of doing something with it and about it. Yeah. But as far as I know, that was news to me, really.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the young people are going to be the least aware of all of this because they don't have the context and the backstory and how things used to be and how they could be in the future and the knowledge of history and all that. So they're going to, just end up into the system that everybody else, if it starts up as a big fight, then they might find out more about it. But otherwise, they're just going to take for granted that things are the way they've always been, right? So, yeah, that's very, very important that we get that message out there. But we'll see. Anyway, that's going on. My shout outs go to everyone who come said hi at Bliss. It was really great to meet you all. It was amazing. I truly, truly enjoyed it. And also to Ava, who I was onboarding to Celine on a German train a little while after that. And just as we were having that chat and I was telling her about the podcast, she was telling me about all this amazing stuff she was up to, which was actually a lot. I was just thinking, that's how it happens. That's how we win. It's just one person at a time, whether it's at Bliss or it's anywhere else, right? Just that small little chipping away at the mountain, the water wears away the stone. And that's what's happening. And that's how you get Donald Trump saying, I'm going to look after your Bitcoin, and Joe Biden starting to panic, right? That's just the result of the last decade of everyone just onboarding one person at a time, a little bit of education. Here, let me send you a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And maybe on any given day, it doesn't feel like we're making all that much progress. But when you start to zoom out and in the broader context of the world, the shift is just enormous. And that comes from the hard work that everyone gets up and does just day after day after day. So that's my shout outs. Thank you all for listening. Until next time.
This is what is known as a Super Saiyan that has ascended past a Super Saiyan. Or you could just call this a Super Saiyan 2.
What a useless transformation. You've changed your hair, so what?
Just wait.
Has he really found a way to surpass an Ascended Saiyan? Is that possible?
He must be bluffing. I mean, what would that make him? Double Ascended?